This is Kim Speedy from 10 Sigma. Welcome to episode 127 of Transition Tuesday. This is the last episode in the Building a Successful Transition Program series, and is one of the most important topics. It is monitoring and reporting progress. Right now I'm going to switch over to a short slide presentation to share this information. Monitoring and reporting progress. Transition Tuesday, episode 127. Before we get started in discussing monitoring and reporting progress, let's recap the past episodes in Building a Successful Transition Program. In episode 111, we discussed the first thing needed to building a successful transition program is to make transition a priority by scheduling time for transition. Next, in episode 113, we discussed student responsibilities and how to get them to take ownership in their transition process. Then, in episode 115, we looked at many ways of collecting transition data. In episode 117, we discussed what students need to learn or do in order to take the lead in writing their post-secondary goals. In episode 119, we discussed how to write a compliant and comprehensive present level of academic achievement and functional performance. In episode 121, we went over transition annual goals. In episode 123, we looked at determining transition services and courses of study. And in episode 125, we discussed including outside agencies in the transition process. The final episode in Building a Successful Transition Program, and one of the most essential components, is monitoring and reporting progress. So let's get started. IDEA requires that a statement of how the students progress toward their annual goals will be measured, when periodic reports on the students' progress will be completed and provided to the parents, and the extent to which progress is considered sufficient. Teams must also report progress at least as often as parents are informed of their non-disabled child's progress. In other words, as many times as a student without a disability gets a report card, this is how many times students with disabilities should get progress reports. Whether that's 2, 3, 4 times a school year depends on your school district. To get started, let's make sure we're clear on the difference between progress monitoring and monitoring progress. Progress monitoring is a scientifically based practice used to assess students' academic performance and evaluate the effectiveness of instruction. The purpose is to monitor students' response to instruction to estimate rates of improvement, identify students who are not demonstrating adequate progress, and compare the efficacy of different forms of instruction. It focuses on students identified through screening as at risk for poor learning outcomes. The tools consist of brief assessments that are valid, reliable, and evidence-based. And the time frame is students are assessed at regular intervals. For example, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. An example is when I was teaching, I would do curriculum-based measures bi-monthly with all of my students for reading, math, and written language. Monitoring progress, on the other hand, is an instructional practice used to assess students' functional or transition skills, performance, and evaluate the effectiveness of instruction. Tools that are used are formative assessments, informal assessments, transition portfolios, rubrics, homework, observation, etc. Let's look back at episode 33 for some important reasons on why to monitor progress. The reason that progress should be monitored are teachers can evaluate their instruction based on data, not hunches. Parents are kept informed about their child's progress and can help facilitate progress at home. Students know how they are doing during the progress period and what is expected of them. And the IEP team has specific data needed to design more effective individualized instruction programs, write measurable annual goals, and determine if the instructional variables need to be changed or when the student has mastered the skill. As you can see, monitoring progress is an essential component of an IEP, and in this case, transition IEP, and to evaluating the appropriateness of a student's program. Still, many IEP teams fail to develop or implement monitoring progress plans and use inappropriate measurements to determine student progress, especially for functional or transition skills. Since it's easier to determine students' progress on academic skills, we are going to discuss 3 of 10 Sigma's top strategies for monitoring functional transition skills. Number 3 is transition portfolios. Let's take a look at what they are and how they can be used. Transition portfolios are a meaningful collection of student work that showcase the student's strengths, interests, wants, and skill growth over time. Portfolios can be used to assist in the transition process, organize necessary information, and demonstrate the abilities of the student. 10 Sigma's second top strategy is performance assessments, which is explained in Transition Tuesday, episode 46. The definition of performance-based assessments can be defined as alternative or authentic assessments and are a form of testing that requires students to perform a task rather than taking a paper-pencil type assessment. The advantages of using performance-based assessments as compared to traditional paper-pencil tests are that the teacher is able to directly observe what the student is learning. The curriculum is directly aligned to the assessment. Performance assessments are usually life skills being applied, so this lends very well to transition skills. They provide meaningful feedback and instruction can be adjusted accordingly. Many subject areas can be assessed simultaneously. And 10 Sigma's number 1 suggested strategy for monitoring progress or functional transition skills is rubrics, specifically analytical rubrics. And as you probably already know, 10 Sigma has over 230 transition rubrics for students with and without disabilities. So let's take a look at the definition and benefits of using rubrics to monitor progress. In education terminology, rubric means a scoring guide used to evaluate the quality of students' constructed responses. Rubrics usually contain evaluative criteria, quality definitions for those criteria at particular levels of achievement, and a scoring strategy. They are often presented in a table format and can be used by teachers when grading and by students when planning their work. In schools, rubrics mean grading sheets, project guides, or cover pages. They have upfront information about what is expected, and they explain to students and parents what items will be graded, how students will be graded on an assignment, and what level of quality is required to earn a particular grade. Other rubric types or formats include assessment rubrics. They can show the student's current level of functioning or baseline. They use consistent language. They collect current data. They provide equitable or specific expectations. And they rate complex behaviors and tasks. Then there are trial rubrics. These rubrics allow for demonstration of components or criterion. They provide the students opportunities for feedback. And progress monitoring rubrics. These rubrics show growth or regression of each component or criteria and overall skills demonstration. They also track the student's performance over time. Other benefits of using rubrics include helping in developing IEPs. Rubrics show students' levels of achievement. They provide specific criteria and details for goals and objectives. They provide for reliable data collection, and they monitor progress over time. Rubrics also describe behaviors in neutral terms. Rubrics help view behavior difficulties as skill deficits rather than willful acting out. They provide opportunities to teaching missing components. Rubrics can be used in general and special education settings, and they allow for students to rate themselves and compare with others. To wrap up monitoring and reporting progress, here are a few takeaway steps. First, develop a plan for monitoring progress that includes multiple measures. Specify who, where, and when of the progress monitoring. Remember, consistency is key. Monitor and track both academic and functional transition annual goals. Next, analyze results to determine if progress is sufficient and to report progress to parents. And lastly, adjust instruction methods, environment, and/or programming for the student if needed. For today's bonus, I'll be sending you information and resources about monitoring and reporting progress. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you use this information to help monitor and report student progress. Be sure to check your email for the bonus we just sent over. If this is the first time you've ever seen an episode of Transition Tuesday, click the link below to receive the bonus. Be sure to like and share the video and leave a comment or suggestion for a future episode of Transition Tuesday. Have a great day. See you next Tuesday.